Hi, I'm Andy. This is Project Carhaven, and once again today we are working on the 1971 TA22 Celica. At the end of the last episode, I just finished making a headliner and it was kind of hanging inside the car loosely. And since then I've finished up trimming and then inserting the edges and also installed the C-pillar trims, which I had previously restored. The next part is I need to move on to doing something with the A-pillars. Now, I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a fight to get that all done and installed neatly. I still need to install the pinch weld trim that goes along here, but I can't do that until I do the A-pillar trim. I'm a bit tired of doing sewing, so in typical fashion, I'm going to distract myself and take care of another couple of jobs first. Now, I don't have any intention of installing a stereo into the dash because lots of them in the past have been cut up and I don't really want to do that, but I will hide one inside the glove box. I also don't want to be bothered cutting up that parcel shelf I just made, so I'm going to stick with what the stock setup was, which is one individual speaker in the center front under the dashboard. So I've got some Kenwood 5x7s. I obviously only need one. It merely installs on these studs here, so I'll do that now. You think it'd be simple enough just to put the left and right front channels straight to that speaker and be done with it. The issue is you change the impedance when you do that and you can overload the amplifier circuit in the stereo. That's not good. The way around that is you need to sum the signals together. And the way you do that is you add a 1K resistor to the left and right positive channels and then add them together after this and put the earths together. That will protect the amplification circuit. You'll lose a little bit of volume, but not too much. Well, these are 1 watt resistors. That's probably overkill. Quarter watt resistors are probably good enough, but you know, being higher capacity, they'll be able to dissipate heat better. It just adds a margin of safety. So what I'm going to do now is prepare these ends ready to solder onto the wiring. Okay, so change of plan. So seeing as I have a pair of speakers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the second one under here because this dashboard is from a 70s car and doesn't have things like airbags and body control modules and CAN bus systems and other annoying things. There's plenty of room. So what I'm going to do is build some standoffs out of the 6mm metal rod that I used to make the hood liner bows, cut some threads on those, and then run them off the studs for the factory mounted speaker to then suspend the other one facing in towards the cabin. So I made a template out of some wire which was easy to bend. That way I know how long each length needs to be and the angle I need. Then I take the 6mm rod into the shed, cut it to length, then use a tap and die set to cut some threads, and we go from there. So I just chamfered the ends there to make it easier for the die to start its cut. Now we go to the shed and bend these to the right form. Get the rods even, hold the wire, top of the vise, tighten, hammer. Now it's just a matter of cutting the threads. So now what I got is 2 threaded homemade brackets to suspend that speaker off the mounting studs for the original. I'll mount the speaker to here first. I'll use a flange nut on either side to lock the speaker in place. And then I've got M6 connectors that will thread from here to the studs in the car. Another flange nut behind that to then lock those in place. And hopefully the speaker just happily hangs there and doesn't get knocked about and produces sound like it should. So now to test that out, I've just got to cheap Pioneer head unit with dual Bluetooth connectivity, so two phones can be connected at once with some alligator clip leads like these, and then see how it sounds. Now I know these speakers are open air and they would sound better in boxes, but I didn't want to cut up the car. I've got one in a factory location, the other one can free float. The point is, it's supposed to have just some sound. I don't really intend to use the stereo that much, but for the sake of convenience, it's nice to have it there if you need it. Okay, it's working. Yeah, that's good. Well, I'll spend some time wiring in the main plug for that head unit to all that cabling, have it all set to the correct length, so when the time comes, all I have to do is slide the head unit into the glove box where the plug will be sitting, clip those two together. That's that job done. A-pillar trim. This is just basic vinyl, very roughly cut out, stitched across the top here at the correct angle to meet the headliner. The rest will get trimmed once it's been glued into place. So I'm going to put on some spray adhesive, but I don't want overspray on the glass or out in the open air here. So first step is I've got to mask this off to contain it to where I need the glue to actually go. And now repeat for the other side. Alright, so that's both sides of the A-pillar trim in, and that means the whole top half of the car at least has been refinished. I also changed over the bulb in the dome light. Normally they run like an incandescent bulb, yellow in colour, is not usually very bright, especially in very old cars. So I switched that out for an LED. I'm not that keen on cool white light in the interior of a car. I feel like it makes it a bit cold and sterile, but the amount of light that it puts out does make a huge difference. So in the sake of it doing its actual job, I decided to go with that LED instead. I may look at trying to find a warm white one in the future, but they don't appear to be easy to come by. Well, with the dashboard, I think I'm just going to go for it. I've masked it off, same way as the A-pillars, stop the glue at that certain point. Just going to coat the piece of material I'm going to use to cover this, and just throw it on, hope for the best. I'll then take the tape off and trim the front to follow that line, tuck it around the back, see if it works.
Tomorrow.
So the cover for the dashboard's now well bonded. Need to get it back in the car, but the front edge was starting to lift. And the solution for that is some Sikaflex 227, which is a one-part urethane panel bonding and automotive sealant. I've used this before to fix dashboards where they get baked by the sun and dashboards lift up and curl up. You stick some of this down in there and press it down into place with a pull noodle, and it holds it there until it cures. No more lifted dashboard. Normally I'd apply it onto the dashboard frame, but because there's minimal space and we do have the dashboard out, I'm just going to apply it to the edge of this. So when it presses in place, it's only going to smear from the inner cabin towards the edge of the windshield. So I shouldn't have any overlap, and it should still have some material left on the edge to be able to bond to the metal. Yeah. Alright, it would appear all of those pins are in place. Now just got to push the pull noodle in place to sit on that edge, hold everything where it needs to be till it cures. So while that's sitting in there curing, I think I'll replace the bulbs inside the switchgear. There are actually bulbs in these that light up the face. Many Celicas I've had, I just figured they were plain plastic knobs that don't light up. Incorrect. This is a BA7S, and that's about as bright as it gets. These are much brighter but more directional light. It doesn't really matter because the light travels along a plastic rod and gets to the end here. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick that up, but it is brighter. So yes, the switchgear lights are BA7S bulbs. The clock takes a BA9S bulb, but I converted it to T10 with a pigtail and a rubber socket, same as the bulbs that fit into the cluster. So as far as the interior lighting goes, that's all now changed to LED. With the dash back in and the pull noodle sitting in place, I think I'll try to get the gauge cluster refitted now. So a bit more space to work with. Alright, that's the steering column bolted back up, and just have to get the steering wheel column surround, steering wheel back on, and the vent, and that's the dash cluster sort of finished. And I did refinish the steering wheel and repair that crack in the top, whatever was going on with that repair, and made it black to go with the black. I'm just going to leave it loosely attached like that till I can verify that the wheels are pointing straight and the steering wheel is clocked correctly, and then I'll tighten it up. Now I went to all the effort of getting the whole front end back on, but I noticed for some reason this high beam had a blue tinge to it. I'm thinking maybe it's burning out. It's still working, but it doesn't match and it looks odd, and it's setting my OCD off a little bit. So I went ahead and ordered a whole bunch of new headlights, including new main beams because they don't have a Parker globe in them like this one. So hopefully it makes it look a bit cleaner. I'll probably need to readjust the level of the headlights when I change them over. But seeing as it's getting close to dark and I'm finished with making myself sore working on the interior, I thought I would get this done while I've got the chance. Oh yeah, when I examine the glass you can see it's got smoky streaks in there. There's something going on in there for sure. These have a flat lens and there's no Parker bulb, unlike this one here that has that there. It's a little bit cleaner. Just run a quick test before I put the front cover on to make sure they actually work. We've got power.
Later.
Well, it is very dark and I don't know how this is going to turn out, but this is with all the LED lights replaced in the cluster. It's actually visible with the incandescent lights. It's really hard to see. There is no mistaking that this stuff is quite visible. Even the writing inside the hazard switch is visible and lit up. Headlight, washers. You can even see the controls for the air conditioner, fan. I say air conditioner, it's not, it's just fan controls. Also, the tail lights are very red. They're not yellowy orange, they're not faded out. Someone in a previous video commented saying the nightshades tinting spray fades quite quickly. I'm hoping the 2K clear with the UV stabilizer will keep that colour locked in and not fade out. So I've had some indecision paralysis for the last couple of days. There's some large jobs and I just can't commit to which one I should be working on. So in turn, I've just done little jobs and not made any headway. It's now time to just buckle down, pick something and just do it, because it's going to be the only way to move forward. So I still need to build door cards before I even put trim on them and put the carpet in, to then put the seats in. The seats need cleaning first before I put seat covers on. Yeah, I think I'll just commit to putting in the underlay and then see where I go from there. So I think it's probably months now that I've had this all wrapped up, just sitting on the table. So all I need to do is unpack it. It's obviously wrapped in underlay, the carpet's here. Sit this out in the sun so it returns to its formed shape, because it is moulded car carpet, and then get to work on placing this stuff in and trimming it to fit the floor. That's nice. Make some quick rough cut measurements. Well, after some pulling and tugging and moving and sliding and cutting, I've managed to get the driver's footwell area sort of covered in underlay. Now it's just a matter of repeating the same thing for the other 3 sections, and then slide the carpet in, cut holes to suit all the other bits and pieces, and then that'll be done. I make it sound simple, but it's not. Well, that's the underlay all in place. I would put the carpet in now, but it's still baking in the sun, trying to straighten out. I may need to use a heat gun to sort of get it back into the correct form. So while I'm waiting for the sun to try and sort that out, another task I have is I have to clean the seats before I put the seat covers on, because it's got 50 plus years of human slum embedded in it, and I don't want to just cover that up. Well, I'm going to start with a quick vacuum, and then I'm going to get a brush attachment for a drill and scrub the heck out of these with a solution of carpet cleaner. So I've got just a regular garden sprayer, carpet cleaner, which I'll make a solution with water in there, spray on, scrub with a brush, and then vacuum out all the grossness with a wet and dry vac, which also has an attachment I got off eBay for about 10 bucks, just so it can act like a carpet cleaning vacuum, but it's just for sucking out all the slime. Now the key with any cleaner is to let it sit and actually do its job, so I'll be back in 10 minutes or so before I start scrubbing. So before I start, I wanted to highlight that this is clean for now, and we'll just check out afterwards how gross these seats actually are. Well, that was the first run, just vacuuming out what was there. I'm going to go over it again with some rinsing water. I'm going to separate out what's in that vac now compared to the rinse. We'll have a look at them side by side once I'm finished.
Later.
All right, well, that's from the first round of vacuuming, and that's with a rinse. No rinse once it's rinsed. Probably can't tell much of a difference between the two, and well, there isn't, to be honest. I ended up rinsing and vacuuming it 4 times in total, and I didn't save those, but you get the idea of how much grossness was in the fabric of those seats. Well, while the seats are drying, I think I'm just going to go for it and try and get the carpet in. Quick inspection tells me that the rear section appears to have no bonded edges, and the front one does, so I'd say this needs to go in first, then the front carpet lays over the top to give a nice seam. So I'll just go with that theory and see how I go. Got some cutting to do. So there was a lot more shoving and pushing and cutting, and I didn't show that to you because it's kind of boring, but the carpet's now in and that's done. So that large job out of the way now allows me to tie up the loose ends on a lot of other small jobs, like refitting the center console. I have to get the seats in, cover the pinch weld with some trim. So I think I'll start with the center console. So I did have to refurbish the center console a little bit. I took the clock out, pulled that apart, took the front lens away, polished that up. The hour and minute hands in the second hand were kind of faded out and not very good looking, so I got some automotive white paint, painted the hour and minute hand, found some red paint to paint the second hand. It was originally orange like the gauges needles, but I don't have any orange, so it'll do the job. And then I also fitted the shift boot, which is aftermarket, but still looks okay. And then what we're left with is something that looks a bit like this. The refurbished clock face looks a lot cleaner than it did originally. Aftermarket shift boot. Genuine leather, apparently, but that'll dress up the shifter. The original boot that I put in the rubber one was more like an inner boot to stop road noise and dirt, dust blowing in. The outer one's the dress up part. I've got that clock plugged in. Try and get this over the shift knob. Will it fit? Just barely. Very good. It's got to shift forward. Well, it makes sense while there's nothing else in the way that I get the new seat belts fitted. New buckles to go with it too, obviously. And a new set of drop links which mount to the roof here. And the belt loops through here and bring the belt close to your shoulder so it's not cutting into your neck. These seat belts are designed for a different car, obviously, and they don't have drop links, so this bracket here would normally mount to a pillar, which this car doesn't have. So I need to cut this off so I can then thread this through the new drop link and have everything work the way I need it to. So first step is get an angle grinder and do some cutting. Not of the belt, that would be bad. Now I have to hold the belt the way I intend to install it, correct orientation, and then thread on the drop link to make sure it's facing the right way so the bolt goes towards the body and not out into the cabin. Okay, that's that thread started. Well, finally, after a lot of playing around, these seat belts are in and they work like they should. So I think it's the first time they've had front seat belts since I've had the vehicle. Next thing I'm going to do is finally get the front seats back in so I don't have to sit on the floor to move the car. And I'm almost finished using up all the hardware my friend Greg gave me. That's all been cleaned up and re-zinc coated. So I have seat bolts and one corner already has a stud there and takes a nut, which I also have. Let's get these guys in. I did forget to add this tray here because it belongs under here. Also covers up near the pinch weld.
Eventually.
Alright, that's the driver's seat fitted. I had to do a bit more trimming of the carpet so the rails would actually sit flat and the holes would line up. But now that's all done. This is in nice and solid. Repeat for the passenger side now.
Later.
Well, now that everything is sort of in place, I have the C-pillar trim, the headliner, the A-pillar trim. Now that the carpet's in, I could put the kick panel back on because the carpet needed to go underneath that. The plastic panel that goes under the seat. Now that that's in place, all this is lined, so now I'm able to put the pinch weld trim on. Well, now that all that's done, I've got another large task which is going to slow me down, which is building door cards. This is an original one. They're all broken and bent. Typically, they have a metal cap at top like this. Have new CNC laser cut door cards. I have to attach the capping to those cards, and then I need to trim them, fit them, got to make a vapor barrier, install the mirror. I think that's the interior done. And then I've got the exhaust. I think that's it. I'm going to call it quits for this episode, but I'll carry on with this stuff in the next one, and I'll hope to see you then.